The Middle East, a region of ancient history and vibrant cultures. From the bustling bazaars filled with the aroma of spices to the majestic ruins of ancient civilizations, the Middle East has always been a cradle of human civilization, but also a land scarred by conflict. Wars, invasions, and internal strife have left indelible marks on its landscape and people. To understand the roots of 9/11, we must first journey back in time. We need to delve into the intricate history that has shaped the modern Middle East. Before the 20th century, the Ottoman Empire ruled much of the region. This vast empire, with its rich cultural and religious diversity, was a significant power in the world. But its decline in the late 1800s created a power vacuum. The weakening of the Ottoman grip on the region opened the door for new players to step in. European powers, eager for resources and influence, stepped in. They saw an opportunity to expand their empires and control the valuable resources of the Middle East. This set the stage for decades of turmoil. The imposition of foreign rule and the drawing of arbitrary borders sowed the seeds of future conflicts. The Middle East is not monolithic. It is a mosaic of cultures, languages and traditions, each contributing to the region's rich tapestry. It's a tapestry of different religions, ethnicities and political ideologies. From the ancient Zoroastrians to the diverse sects of Islam, the region is a melting pot of beliefs. This diversity, while enriching, also became a source of tension. The coexistence of various groups often led to friction and conflict. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire exacerbated these divisions. The end of Ottoman rule left a fragmented region struggling to find its identity. New states were carved out, often with little regard for existing communities. The arbitrary borders, drawn by colonial powers, ignored the complex social fabric of the region. This arbitrary division planted the seeds of future conflicts. The new borders created new tensions and rivalries among the newly formed states. The creation of Israel in 1948 added another layer of complexity. The establishment of a Jewish state in the heart of the Arab world was a turning point in the region's history. The Zionist movement, aiming to create a Jewish state in Palestine, clashed with the existing Arab population. This clash led to a series of conflicts that continue to this day. The resulting Arab-Israeli war led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. Families were torn apart, and a refugee crisis emerged that still affects the region. This event fueled resentment and instability in the region. The unresolved issues from this conflict have been a source of ongoing tension and violence. Understanding this historical context is crucial. It provides insight into the deep-seated grievances and the complex political landscape of the Middle East. It helps us grasp the deep-seated grievances, political complexities, and ideological struggles that shaped the Middle East in the 20th century. The interplay of these factors has had a profound impact on the region's trajectory. These factors, combined with the rise of extremist ideologies, paved the way for the events leading up to 9/11. The attacks were not an isolated incident, but the culmination of decades of historical, political, and social dynamics. The end of World War I marked a turning point for the Middle East. The defeated Ottoman Empire was dismantled, and European powers took control. Britain and France carved up the region, imposing their own borders and systems of governance. This period of colonialism left deep scars. Colonial powers often favored certain groups over others, sowing further discord. They exploited resources and manipulated local politics to maintain control. This created resentment and fueled nationalist movements. The arbitrary borders drawn by colonial powers ignored existing ethnic and religious communities. This led to tensions and conflicts that continue to this day. The legacy of colonialism is undeniable. It left the Middle East with weak states, artificial borders, and a legacy of resentment towards the West. These factors created fertile ground for instability and extremism to take root. The mid-20th century witnessed the rise of a powerful new force, political Islam. This period marked a significant turning point in the history of the Muslim world as political Islam began to shape the socio-political landscape in profound ways. This movement sought to address the challenges facing Muslim societies through a return to Islamic principles. It aimed to revive the spiritual and moral fabric of the community, which many felt had been eroded by colonialism and Western influence. It offered a potent mix of religious identity, anti-Western sentiment, and a vision for a just society. This vision resonated deeply with many Muslims who were disillusioned with the existing political systems and the pervasive influence of Western powers. Political Islam was not a monolithic movement. It was a diverse and multifaceted phenomenon, encompassing a wide range of ideologies and strategies. It encompassed a wide spectrum of views, from moderate reformists to radical revolutionaries. Some sought gradual change through education and social reform, while others called for immediate and drastic action. Some groups advocated for peaceful change through democratic means, while others embraced violence to achieve their goals. This dichotomy within the movement often led to internal conflicts and differing approaches to achieving the same ultimate objective. One of the most influential figures in the rise of political Islam was Sayyid Qutb. His ideas and writings became a cornerstone for many within the movement. An Egyptian writer and intellectual, Qutb argued that the Muslim world had strayed from the true path of Islam. He believed that the adoption of Western values and systems had led to moral and spiritual decay. He called for a return to Sharia law and the establishment of Islamic states. Qutb's vision was one of a society governed by Islamic principles, free from the corrupting influence of Western ideologies. Qutb's writings had a profound impact on a generation of Muslims, inspiring both peaceful activists and future terrorists. His call for a return to pure Islam resonated with those seeking a sense of purpose and direction in a rapidly changing world. The rise of political Islam was a complex phenomenon, with deep roots in the social, political, and economic conditions of the Muslim world. The movement was fueled by widespread dissatisfaction with the status quo and a desire for change. It reflected a yearning for justice, identity, and a sense of empowerment in the face of Western dominance. For many, political Islam offered a way to reclaim their heritage and assert their rights in a world that seemed increasingly hostile to their values. However, it also provided fertile ground for extremist ideologies to flourish. The movement's emphasis on a return to pure Islam was interpreted in various ways, leading some to adopt radical and violent methods in their quest for an Islamic state. The Cold War cast a long shadow over the Middle East, shaping its political landscape for decades to come. The region, rich in resources and strategically located, became a focal point for the global struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union. The United States and the Soviet Union, locked in a global struggle for supremacy, viewed the region as a strategic prize. Both superpowers were determined to expand their influence and prevent the other from gaining a foothold. Both superpowers sought to expand their influence and contain the others. This led to a series of strategic moves and counter-moves, trying to outmaneuver the other in a high-stakes game of geopolitical chess. This rivalry fueled proxy wars and regional conflicts. Local disputes were often exacerbated by the involvement of these global powers, turning what might have been minor skirmishes into prolonged and devastating wars. The US supported anti-communist regimes, even if they were authoritarian and repressive. This support often came in the form of military aid, economic assistance, and political backing, which helped these regimes maintain their grip on power. The Soviets, in turn, armed and supported leftist groups and governments. They provided weapons, training, and advisors to these groups, hoping to spread their ideology and counter US influence in the region. This often meant that local conflicts were exacerbated by superpower involvement. The influx of foreign weapons and advisors turned local militias into formidable forces capable of waging prolonged and destructive wars. The Arab-Israeli conflict became entangled in the Cold War dynamics. Both superpowers saw the conflict as an opportunity to expand their influence and weaken their rival. The US supported Israel, while the Soviets backed Arab states. This support included military aid, economic assistance, and political backing, which further fueled the conflict and made it even more intractable. This further inflamed tensions and made the conflict even more intractable. The involvement of the superpowers turned what might have been a regional dispute into a major flashpoint in the Cold War. The Cold War also fueled the rise of militant groups. These groups often received support from one superpower or the other, depending on their political alignment and strategic value. Both superpowers, in their quest for influence, often turned a blind eye to the activities of these groups as long as they served their interests. This short-sighted approach allowed militant groups to grow in strength and influence. This short-sighted approach came back to haunt them. The militant groups that had been nurtured and supported during the Cold War would later become major threats to global security, leading to a new era of conflict and instability in the region.